And so you see the name I've given this. That's right. No one wants solutions. Nope. Not the Manosphere nor the truthers. The so-called truthers that are up here in line speaking out against the corruption that's going on around the world. You got a lot of these so-called truthers telling truth, but they're not after solutions. Oh, they always talk the talk, but they can't walk the walk. Yep. The truther community is full of hypocrites and egomaniacs, okay, who are corrupt themselves and can't even see it. Think there's nothing wrong with being corrupt themselves. This is what the truther community is loaded with. Okay, that's no lie. This is fact. When you look through the truther community, you can go from channel to channel. They'll talk a lot of truth of what's going on around the world, from the Freemasons to Skull and Bones. That's right. To the powers to be at the top, to the fraudulent shootings that's taken place, female exercise drills that they took live, fooled all the sheep into believing it really took place when it didn't. Use it to push laws on the people, to enslave the people, to further take more rights away from people. Not that they're lying about what they're showing you and telling you, because they're not. But see, the problem is they're there for the wrong reason. The majority of all the truthers are there for the wrong reason. They're either there because they want popularity. That's right. They want their 15 minutes of fame, or they've monetized their channel. Okay. And they are egomaniacs. That's right. This is why you find that the truther community is completely loaded with hypocrites, deceivers, corrupt people themselves. That's right. Speaking against the powers to be, how these people are psychopaths and how they act and what they do, while they're acting the very same way themselves. Exactly. It's sort of like they have a jealousy complex going on. Jealous that they're not the powers to be themselves. Yep. Because when I say that power and greed absolutely corrupts the human mind, it's not a lie. It's fact. No different than when I say ego absolutely corrupts the human mind because it leads to power. Trips, that's right. Leads to being fraudulent to protect your ego. It leads to being a hypocrite. It leads to doing unto somebody else that you wouldn't want done unto yourself to protect your ego, to feel that you're above somebody else, to really allow yourself to believe you're better and above somebody else. This is in the truther community. But this also crosses over to the manosphere. And then you have the truthers that won't even touch the manosphere with a 10-foot pole because it's too personal for them. That's right. It's just too personal. Yep. Wouldn't want to touch that area. No. A lot of the truthers you'll find out are simps. Simps and vaginas. The white knights. That's right. Who refuse to see that there's a war between the genders. Who wants to continuously stand up for the woman's wrongs and never call her out on her wrongs. Because to call a woman out on her wrongs would make you a woman hater. Okay? Because you called her out on her wrongs. No, it doesn't make you a woman hater. Anybody that thinks when you call a woman out on her wrongs, you're a woman hater, is seriously deluded in the head. Okay? And the list I could give you could go on and on and on and on and on. But then nobody in the truther community is after solutions. No. They're not willing to work together and understand what's really taking place in the world. Even though they do understand overall what's going on in the world, they don't want to fix it. If I say we need to be equal, I'm not talking about anything other than rights and laws and how we treat each other. But they will stretch that way out when you say equal, and they will say no, because this means everybody lives in an identical house, has identical clothes, has identical this, identical that. No, that's called manipulation. The real reason they don't want people to be equal is because they like the idea of having power over the top of somebody else. They like looking down on other people and feeling like they're a god, that they're a god status, which is what psychopaths at the top do. hmm So see how the truther community is a lot like the very people they're speaking out against? Yeah. That's the reason they get fired up at me when I say equal. Okay. They can't handle it. There's a reason our world's in the shape it's in because of these control freaks, because of the mentality that you have to have power, that you can't get rid of power. You need to have your power because you always want to wield it over the top of somebody else, which is corruption, which is psychopathic behavior. Okay? It's also the reason you'll never stand up and fight back. And it's also the reason history will play itself and you will do nothing about it. Just like the elite said, they would tell you what they were going to do, and then they would do it, and that you would do nothing about it. And so far, for lots and lots of decades now, you have proven that to be 100% accurate. That's exactly it, too. Now we'll cross over to the Manosphere. No different than the truther community, really. It isn't. The only difference between the Manosphere and the truther community is the Manosphere will acknowledge the double standards and discrimination going on against them by their opposite gender, by their court systems, no fault divorce, by their media, by the feminist movement, and so on, which the majority of the truther community will not touch with a 10-foot pole. They don't care about the manosphere. They don't care about the corruption because the majority of them are just that, simps. Okay? Weaklings. They're not even men. And you don't have very many females over in the truth community, but you do got a few. Okay? And they're proud to be part of that truth community because nobody ever calls them out. They get put on the pedestal and they stay right there. That's right. Then we walk into the manosphere and we find out it has a lot of the same issues. So now let's go into the manosphere for a little bit. When I said nobody wants solutions, I'm not joking. I'm not joking at all. First off, for the majority of the people that I'm seeing online, they wasn't here when Barbarossa gave the name men going their own way. That's right. Where were they? Maybe they were still too young. They were still a child at home. Maybe they were a young teen, and they hadn't been on the computer or YouTube, didn't know anything about it. But the one thing I do know when I observe the so-called men going your own way, it was the perfect answer to solving the problem. If it was taken seriously, it would have caused. But if it was taken seriously, it would still have to be taken seriously by the male gender. You already had a big divide there to begin with because the truther community won't touch this topic. They'll leave it just the way it is. and somehow think they're going to overturn the corruption by leaving millions and millions of people embedded in corruption because they thought this war of evil versus good, right and wrong, was a buffet line that they were at an all-you-can-eat restaurant, and it was a buffet line, and they could just go across and pick out whatever truths they wanted and disregard the rest. And because they think it's a buffet line, they fail to understand that they could never win if they tried. They have already lost. And I see the same thing in the Manosphere when it comes to MGTOW. Because the majority of you was not around when I was, when Steve Hoka was. You didn't exist. You wasn't on YouTube. You was either too young yet, growing up as a child, or a young teen, or whatever. Wherever you were at, you was not around. What you done was fall for the propaganda that was pushed over your media about MGTOW. And you have literally skewed the name and the meaning. See, MGTOW, men going their own way. Not as When in Doubt would say. See, When in Doubt calls it MGTOW. He has his name as men going their own way, but he really means MGTOW. Because he says they're walking their own path. Okay? Their own path to still jumping through all the hoops. Still playing all the mind games and delusion. Focusing in on the differences of the genders. Focusing in on putting their penis in a hole. And furthering the elite's agenda of keeping us divided. While they call themselves a man going their own way, they'll tell you it does not mean what it says. Because the media told them, that's right, powers to be had to do that. Because to take men going their own way seriously and apply it seriously, once enough men had done that, of course, we have to reach that 20%, don't we? Which you're not going to reach because they're over there in the Manosphere. They're hypocrites and frauds and egomaniacs and don't even know what they're doing. They understand the corruption that's going on, but they're all too busy with their 15 minutes of fame. They don't care about changing anything. They just want to keep bitching about the symptoms. Oh, what do we have over here in the Manosphere? Oh, that's right. We'll just keep bitching about the symptoms. But we won't take it seriously, right? Because to take it seriously means you would understand that when Barbarossa gave the name men going their own way, he literally was talking about walking away from the female gender. But you didn't want that. Powers to be definitely don't want that. That's the reason it went mainstream so fast. Because they had to hurry up and skew the meaning and twist it. And like a bunch of suckers with the mask pulled over their face or blanket pulled over their face, so many men who worship vagina, who praise putting their dick in a hole, that wouldn't know what the foundation of a successful relationship was, that wouldn't know what the definition of a real man was if they tried. Because in their brains, through delusion and programming and social engineering, they believe the definition of a man is the more holes I put my penis in, the more of a man I'm in. The better looking she is on my arms for the whole world to look at, so I could have that attention makes me a better man. That has nothing to do with being a man at all. It just makes you a better sucker. That's all it makes you. A better sucker. A fool. And you don't even know you are. See, when I talked about what When in Doubt's words was, he had a good message. It's just too bad he wasn't serious. It's just too bad that he's deluded to believe that it's not about walking away from women. Is to believe you will never change the problem. Because these women are in bed with the government because they're the ones getting the perks. Hollywood, the media, all of it's controlled by the powers to be through the military industrial complex. That's why you also have a military media industrial complex. Now, I bet you didn't know that, did you? If you go do your homework and look into this stuff, you'd see that it is real. It existed. That President Eisenhower, who was here long before anybody, including me, warned the people of this country about the rise of the military industrial complex. But you took that warning like you take everything else. You turned your head and looked the other way. All that matters to the majority of you people is your own little pretend fame. That's right. To look good to somebody else, to fit in with somebody else who's also been brainwashed like you. What's really going on in the world don't mean a thing to you, does it? Then you'd wonder why history keeps replaying itself. It's sort of like this. Even if we could get enough men, which we never will because you're all divided dummies, okay, to rise up together for the same cause and take MGTOW seriously, which you're not going to because you're too busy worshiping it. And that's also what helped them become as corrupt as they are. So while you're worshiping that pussy, excuse my language, you're helping the mentality that created the problems you're complaining about. So you're going to feed that problem and keep it alive and healthy and somehow delude yourself into believing that you're going to stand up against these women and take that power back. No, you're not. You have no intentions of doing that. And even if you thought you were serious that you have intentions of doing that, you couldn't do it in a billion years because you're already too damn weak. You can't even walk away from the opposite gender for 5 or 10 years to correct the problem. And that's what it's going to take, is taking MGTOW seriously. So I think that When in Doubt should probably rename himself to MGTOP, Men Taking Their Own Path. Since he's gone along with media's delusions, okay, and he worships it so bad that he couldn't be a man without worshiping it. I don't know why he's complaining about the way women are treating him while he's feeding them ammunition to keep him in that mentality. Because that's really what he's doing. Which means Project Mayhem, screw that. Our society's already in mayhem. He's not going to cause mayhem for these real enemies because he's too busy going along with them. See, he can't be fighting his enemies and going along with his enemies. It don't work that way. You don't stand alongside your enemy and shake their hands and walk tall with them while you're fighting them. It's like going to war, man. He's shipping his ammunition over to his enemy and wondering why he can't beat them and why they keep firing back. You know, when I talked about if we could rise up, which won't happen, and take the power away from the women, it would only be through seriously walking away from women. You have to walk away from them. This is where MGTOW was the best idea ever. But as when in doubt said, no, men going their own way doesn't stand for walking away from women going your own way. That it stands for taking your own path. That's media. That's mainstream media. That's military industrial complex. That's what they wanted you to believe. And when in doubt, believes it hook, line, and sinker. He's a great fish on the line flopping in the air and don't even know he is. And he's deluded himself to believing it's making him a strong man when it's not. When it's only feeding into the problem that created the problems that you're bitching about the women acting like. You know, when I said we rise up and take the power away from women, I made the statement you should throw the power in the dumpster. When in doubt, made the statement, no, we got to have power. So you got to have corruption. You got to allow history to replay itself then. This is what you're telling me. You need to think that you have to have power. You don't understand. This is the reason history keeps replaying itself. Is because you think that you got to be above somebody else. You think you got to be smarter, better, and above another human being. You think that you have a right to dictate another human being. Although you don't want to be dictated yourself. Although you don't want to be treated this way yourself, you're so willing to do it onto somebody else. When I said to back up and think and use your head and examine your own behaviors and recognize right from wrong, none of you take that seriously. That's because that would involve personal responsibility, right? And self-discipline. And you don't want to do that. I don't want a solution. I want to keep our world all screwed up the way it is. I just want to rise above somebody else so that I can wield power over somebody else and feel like a god. That's really what you're saying. Which is the same sick in the head, psychopathic mentality as the psychopaths at the top. They got you right where they want you, man. You're all bent over. You got your lube? No. You're not doing her. And she's not doing you. Bubba's doing you. Get your lube out for Bubba now. That's right. Now I know you don't like me saying that, do you? That's pissing you off, isn't it? Well, my whole goal is to understand that our behaviors come from this social engineering. And on an individual basis, man, we have to be willing to do what you're not willing to do. And as long as you're not willing to do it, you've already lost. So I don't know why you want to get up here and whine and complain about the behaviors of females when you encourage that behavior and you send them down that road with that power trip so they can have that behavior. Okay, because that's really what you're doing. When you put that woman above yourself and you're so focused on worshiping her vagina, she knows this. You think she don't? How do you think her mindset got as corrupt as it is? You created that Frankenstein, that female Frankenstein. That's right, you created it. You want a solution? You've done this for men have done this to themselves for so long, thanks to social engineering, that you have deluded yourself. You have become completely weak. You're afraid of not fitting in with somebody else who's been brainwashed the same as you have, that grew up in the same world you grew up in, that's been fed all the same bullshit. You're so afraid of not fitting in that you won't stand up and fight back for what's right. You don't want to recognize right from wrong, because then that means it takes self-discipline, self-work on one's own self. Well, until you do that, you can't stop nothing, because that means you're already a coward. You will die on your knees as the coward you are. Or you will be a man and die on your feet fighting back as a man. Although sad thing is most men aren't men. They're cowards who will die on their knees. They'll say, not me. Why? You represent the behavior that leads you to being the coward. I have not met one man in this world who has ever died from lack of. I have never been to one funeral in my life, or even seen a funeral with a man who died from lack of. So, and you can say, here's your replacement for the female gender, but I don't buy it. Because when I say men going their own way stands for walking away from women, the majority of MGTOWers are going to say, no, it don't mean that. I can't walk away from them. I worship it. Don't you understand? That's really what you're doing. Now, you're going to say you're not, but you are. You can deny it till you're blue in the face, but I've watched your behaviors. And when I see your behaviors scream louder than your words. Because your behaviors tell the truth, not the lie that's coming out your mouth, not the lie that you're typing on your keys. Your behaviors represents who you really are. Well, you know what? Back in the day when I was in school, they don't do this no more. When you got to middle school and you went to PE, gymnasium, you had to go to the shower room and you had a locker, everybody did. And the shower rooms did not have individual stalls. Just like you see on TV in a prison. And so you get off of PE, you go into the gymnasium, you go into the locker room, you get butt-ass naked, and you all go in the shower room, and you have a shower head here, and a shower head a couple of feet over, and a shower head a couple feet over, and a shower head a couple feet over. No walls, no enclosures. You saw everything on everybody there, and you were all guys. You took your showers, cleaned up, dried off, went to your locker, got dressed, and went back to class. That's what Steve Hoke is talking about. Now you're all homophobic and afraid that somebody's looking at your ass or looking at you sexually. Do you see what the over-sexualization of society, over-sexing has done for us? It has completely destroyed us and divided us. So when you want to talk about showers and men, open showers, maybe it needs to come back, because it's not about making love to each other or having sex with each other. It's about reality. Okay? It's about living in the real world, not living a delusion, a lie. Not living deception. And when it comes to reality, I went through junior high, which at that time was called junior high, not middle school, and high school taking showers in that type of situation. I went to a public pool in my town where you showered before you put on your trunks and climbed in the pool. It was their rule. And it was the same thing as in school, man. There wasn't no separate shower stalls to hide yourself in. You didn't worry about somebody was looking at your butt cheeks or your cock or what have you, your privates. You had respect for each other, something that we've lost in today's society. So when I say that nobody wants solutions, I'm not lying to you. Your behaviors prove that. You're willing to run with military industrial complex media has told the media to report about MGTOW. You have flipped the definition of MGTOW completely around to your own wants, completely destroying it. So when I said that MGTOW is the biggest fraudulent fake entity on the face of this planet outside of the elite and what's going on in the truth community, I wasn't lying to you. Why would I tell TFLers to go MGTOW? See, they don't get anything anyhow. The women are even interested in them. They spend their lives being rejected over and over and over. So for them to walk away from women would be the best thing for them, because now they're not going to be rejected no more. Getting your strength from the inside and building yourself up to be happy so you can live your life is what I'm talking about, and that's the reason I went along with When in Doubt. But then When in Doubt come up and said all these other things. It shows the guy's not even awake. It says I told Steve Holka he would tell on himself. And he has. Well, yeah, but see, you're not in prison. Unfortunately, prison life, you're put in prison because you break some man-made rule. And you're in prison and you're locked with other men for 30 years. Your hormones still recognize female. You want female, but there is no female. There is absolutely no female. And in an over-sexualized world, you start looking at each other. It's sort of like forced to be gay. It's not true forced loneliness, it's true forced gay. It's sick, it's disgusting, but I know what you're talking about. My main reason for saying what I'm saying and giving the name to this topic is because the facts are the facts. I don't care if you're in the truther community, it's full of hypocrites and egomaniacs and complete corruption. Everybody's only there for their 15 minutes of fame. And the other people there, they're agents that have been planted by the military industrial media complex, just like you have in the Manosphere, to twist the truth, to manipulate the truth, to allow you to have 70% of truth and the rest lies, and send you down psyops and rabbit holes. But they've already lost because they don't got their shit together no more than the Manosphere does. MRA, men's right activists, to work to get it right, the corruption is already so far gone until people are willing to really take it seriously and want solutions. And I mean take it seriously. Until that happens to Matt Carter, there will be no change. You have to take this stuff seriously. Then if you can take it seriously, then you better start recognizing right from wrong. You can't make the manosphere as a whole when you're all divided. And if you're not willing to understand how important it is for men to walk away from women and to stop going with mainstream media twisting the definition of men going their own way, that was done deliberately because men walking away from women was the answer to waking women up, which then in return would bring the genders back together. Then everybody would be angry at their real enemy instead of the people who hate their enemy, which could cause a rise up. Then you'd go after the real people who've done all this to us, which is what needs to happen. But you don't want that. You'd rather have a sex doll, right? You'd rather have a sex doll in the world than have men and women start respecting each other and treating each other properly, right? That sex doll is more important to you. Because after all, it is only about sex, right? I mean, our life about is sex, right? Is that all your life is about? Sex, 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 sex? There's nothing more to your life. You don't want to be happy. You think your happiness is created with your penis. This is how messed up you are when you think this way. It just shows they got you right where they want you, man. It's not going to be hard to coat and kill you. You're sitting prey. History's going to replay itself. You can't stop it. You've turned your back and bent over and spread your cheeks for them. I try to tell you what's really going on, and I'm not lying to you, but you don't want to hear it. Because it scares you, doesn't it? The thought of having to back up and think about your own behavior. Just the thought of examining your own self and then having to change your behavior to treat another human being the way you'd want to be treated yourself and to not recognize gender. To understand there's differences between men and women don't mean you focus on the differences. Are you deluded? There's not that many differences, or us men would not be here. Matter of fact, population would have already died off. The league would have no problem with population reduction. They have a problem with getting a population. Because you men sure couldn't get her pregnant. Because you're not human. She couldn't give birth to you, to a baby boy. You know why? Because you're not human. Why do I say that? Because this is where you've gone. You have put your mind in an area that your mind should have never been. There's not one successful relationship between man and woman since the beginning of the time that was ever successful based on, well, there's differences between us, so we got to treat each other different than another human being. When you was a little kid and you played with the little girl down the street, you didn't focus on the differences. And for some reason, you seemed to get along pretty good when you were playing down the street. You didn't have your mind in the gutter. You wasn't thinking about stripping her naked. It's only after your hormones developed that you started undressing her. And it's only after brainwashing from your society that you started focusing on the differences. That absolutely helps to destroy the genders. This is where this comes from. My whole point is men going their own way. When Barbarossa gave that name that the majority of you people that are on here now calling yourself Migto You wasn't even around. That's a name you've heard of, but you've never seen. I was around long before MGTOW. And taking MGTOW seriously and not flipping the definition is the only way we could ever stop the corruption between men and women and bring us back together again. It may take 5 or 10 years of men not having a woman in their life, not giving the time of day to a woman and walking away from her. And it's going to take massive numbers of men all over the world to do it. Because when you do this, what happens is this. Women now lose their power. They now live TFL because they can't get nobody in their life. They now become frustrated, upset, sick, and they're now forced to think about their own behaviors. But just like men, you have to think about your behaviors. You have to recognize each other as human beings. And you got to start treating each other like human beings. Power needs thrown away. But when in doubt says, no, 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 we need power. So you need corruption, huh? You need the ability to think you're God and look down on somebody else, do you? That's what you're saying when you say you need power. No, you don't need power. Nobody needs power. I guarantee you this right now, there ain't no woman or no man on the face of this planet that wants to feel lower than some other human being, that wants to be looked down on by another human being. The only thing you're asking for is to repeat history. The only thing you're asking for is corruption. You've already got it all around you. So if you absolutely have to have power, then please leave the internet. Please stop opening your mouth. Because you already got it all around you. And if you're jealous because you're not at the top of the pyramid looking down on people and being a god figure to other people, it's because you're a psychopath. And as far as I'm concerned, you need taken out. You're garbage. You're a parasite. You're one of the reasons our society is in the shape it's in. And I don't care whether you like me or not when I say that. It's the God's honest truth. And I'm not talking from a religious aspect. Nobody wants to be looked down on. Nobody needs another boss in their life when they're supposedly supposed to be growing up and they're above 18 years old. And that's not a gender issue. Because there ain't no man nor woman that wants to be looked down and looked down by another human being, and that human being wielding power over the top of them and doing unto them what they wouldn't want done unto themselves, and expecting them to just woman up or man up and take it. But yet all of you control freaks or you power hungry freaks wouldn't want that same thing done to you. And here you are down the lower level whining and bitching and bellowing and complaining about the way you're being treated and the way it's being done. But you want to not get rid of it because you want to do it to somebody else. That says you're a psychopath. That says you're a narcissist. That says you don't have common thinking skills. Says you don't possess care. That's what that screams. Whether you like it or not, that's what that screams. And if you don't want that screaming out at you, then maybe you should try hearing what I'm telling you. You know? And if you can't practice what I'm telling you or even try to do it, then obviously you don't want solutions. Why do you think I gave the name of this live stream what I gave it? No one wants solutions. Solutions is not what you want because it takes self-discipline. It takes working on your own selves on an individual basis to lose the programming that's been put into you that you didn't even know was put into you because your whole life you've been lied to. And that's no lie. Every last one of us have been lied to over and over our entire lives by our school system, by your moms and dads who didn't know they were lying to you because they was lied to their whole lives, by your history books, by your media, your television set. Doesn't matter which way you go, you've been lied to your whole life. The division between the genders is not no accident. You're not going to call some politician or congressman and change it. They didn't accidentally make these laws, these rules, no more than Joe Biden and the Violence Against Women's Act, where it was literally wrote into the law that a man cannot be a victim of domestic violence. So when she's beating you with a hammer, hitting you in the head with a baseball bat, stabbing you with a knife, remember, guys, you're not a victim of domestic violence. You know why? Because you're not even a human being. Then you think, no, that was an accident. Joe Biden didn't mean that. No, that was no accident. That was deliberately done, and it wasn't by Joe Biden. He was just the puppet they used to push it. It was by the powers to be. It was no accident. It's no accident that within a year after Barbarossa gave the name Men Going Their Own Way, it was all over your television set. That's because the powers to be seen it and realized the danger of it. They realized that if men took it seriously and walked away from women, and massive numbers started doing it, because, see, the powers to be engineered the division between the genders. Took them years to do it, but they engineered it, not just through the feminist movement. Why do you think you have male bashing 365 days a year on your television set? Because your television set, Hollywood and media are all controlled by military media industrial complex. But you couldn't listen to Eisenhower when he told you. You had to turn your back and look the other way. That's your own fault for not paying attention. And for us people that wasn't alive during Eisenhower's time, it is not necessarily your own fault because of the fact he wasn't alive during your time. You knew nothing about him and you wasn't told the truth. Do you understand where I'm coming from? When you're not told the truth, you have to educate yourself to find the truth. So this is where I'm coming from with this. No, you may not see it 24/7, but I guarantee you, I can turn on a television set and before that day's out, I can show you male bashing is playing every day. Let's look at the Lifetime network, for example. You want male bashing? Start watching Lifetime. You want male bashing? Watch Dr. Phil. You want male bashing? Watch the Oprah Winfrey Network. Now, you don't believe me? Go do it and see what you come up with. And then if you can't see the male bashing after it's in your face, then maybe you don't need to check the eye doctor or the hearing doctor so you can test your ears and your eyesight. Okay, I understand about sitcoms. It's all over the place and it's been going on for a long time. It's not an accident. Do you think like Family Matters, I believe it was Family Matters that had Urkel in it? How Urkel acted so dumb, so stupid, so blah, blah, blah. And the girls were so smart and so intelligent. What, do you think that script was an accident? No, that's part of social engineering because it gives the mindset for the behaviors that you see all around you now, don't you? So, I mean, and I'm not lying to you about that stuff, but if you're not awake to see it, there's no, I mean, as I said, man, we can lead the horse to water, but we can't make him drink it. You can continue to turn your back and look the other way and die the coward on your knees, or you can open your damn eyes and start becoming strong and die as a man on your feet fighting back. You take your pick. Which do you want to do? Die the man on your feet fighting back, or die the coward on your knees? What I see nowadays is most people actually want to die a coward on their knees. They want to put on a phony image to make everybody believe they're tough and strong and this and that because they can hide behind their keyboard. They can use an avatar and not show their face. You don't have to tell people who you are. You can use a phony baloney name and you can hide behind the keyboard and you can lie to the public and because you're scared somebody might figure out who you are, because you're scared somebody might know who you are, because you're scared you might not fit in, because you're scared, because you're scared, because you're scared, because you're scared. That's what it all comes down to. And because you're scared, you will never be able to beat evil, because the last time I looked, I have never seen a coward win a war. I've never seen cowards win a war. The internet did not make you tough. It allowed you to hide yourself behind a keyboard and an avatar and give a name of anything you wanted, so that your real behavior could come out and you could do unto others that you wouldn't want done unto yourself from behind a keyboard. And there's nothing I can say for you. I can't make you do anything. And I'm not here to make you do anything. I'm here to tell you the truth. And if you don't like the truth, it's not my problem. It's yours. You're allowing history to replay itself. You don't understand what's going on in society. The majority of men, so-called men going their own way, don't even know who created it or what it's really about, and don't understand how crucial it is for men to really walk away from women. But they're not going to walk away from women because they're sorry doing this. I worship pussy. But I'm going my own way. I'm playing all the games to get into a female's pants, including manipulating and lying to her and leading her to believe there's going to be more of a commitment here to get into her pants, and can't see no wrong with that behavior, huh? This is where this comes from. I've talked about this stuff openly on the streets ever since I've done this. I don't hesitate. I can be at a grocery store. I can be in Walgreens. I can be in a Walmart. I could be in Target. I can be on the beach. I don't care where I'm at, and I'll talk about it openly to people I don't even know. Always have and always will. Would you do that? So you want to tell me about hitting the streets, but I'm going to ask you, would you do that? I'm not afraid to do it. I've done it over and over and over and over and over and over again. So that's your answer. I can't do everything by myself. I don't have many more years on this earth. And if you want to correct things, you have to understand what I'm telling you while I'm here. Men going their own way has to be taken seriously and literally. If you're going to go with what When in Doubt wrote about men going their own way, then that means you're going with military industrial media complexes want, the powers to be's want. So therefore, when in doubt is not MGTOW. He's not a man going his own way. He's MGTOP. That's right. He's MGTOP because he's taken his own path while he chases for pussy. While he does a video and shows you a doll of a naked woman and says this is a woman's replacement. And he thinks he's rising up. He's rising up to the globalists' want. He's going right down the New World Order path. He's falling for the propaganda and going right where they want him to go. He's going to help them with population reduction. So yeah, I guess you don't understand how taking MGTOW seriously is what has to happen. Why do you think it hit mainstream so quick? So this is where this comes from. I don't know what to tell you other than the fact is that men going their own way has to be taken seriously, and it needs to be done literally, walking away from women. And it has to be done in massive numbers, and I'll never see that happening. Never, never. So therefore, you will fail. The powers to be have done a great job of dividing us and deluding us. To ever straighten out society, you got to first get both genders back together again. You're not going to get both genders back together again until you strip the power away from your opposite gender. You cannot strip the power away from your opposite gender by worshiping her. You just don't understand that, do you? Is that like above your head or above your IQ? I don't know. But I wanted to jump up here and talk about this. I think I've talked about what I needed to talk about now. So this is why you'll hear me say that me going their own way is one of the biggest fraudulent, phony, baloney, fake entities on the face of the fucking internet right now. I saw one where it said, MGTOW is going the wrong world and it's becoming big and it's making a difference. What a crock of BS. That is nothing but propaganda. There ain't no truth to that. And I don't care if you tell me there is. You better prove it because you won't be able to prove it. I don't give a shit how hard you try to prove it. You won't prove it. Because men going their own way means walking away from the women. And it is the only thing that'll work. Because you've placed them above yourself for decade after decade after decade. You've pampered them, you've spoiled them, you've placed them above yourself, and you're over here worshiping them like they're some god, and they know it. They're not held accountable for any of their behaviors. You created the Frankenstein. You can only uncreate that Frankenstein through taking it away from them. You cannot take it away from them by continuing to worship them. It does not work both ways. And I guarantee it take 5 or 10 years of enough men walking away from women, you'll start to see changes. Because the women will actually really start realizing it. And once they start realizing it, because they've been stripped of their power, which they'll be angry about, you throw the power away. Power absolutely corrupts. Unless you're in a hurry to repeat history, you throw power in the garbage. Men and women need to start looking at each other as human beings. No lie. Treat each other as human beings. Stop focusing on they're different than us. Deliberately done to destroy the genders, and it worked. And take your mind out of the gutter. And with that being said, I'm out of here, guys. You have a good one.